Oliver.
Thank you.
We're interested to learn more about your presentation.
Thanks for the introduction. It's great to be here in Berlin and back in Germany. I moved to California a year ago, and I was working in Zurich, Switzerland for Google in the years before that. Before I get started with my presentation, let's watch a quick video. If you could play it, if you could roll it. Users are on their smartphone all the time experiencing these short moments like the ones you just saw in the video, or more mundane ones, like, for example, when you're queuing in the supermarket queue, or during a commercial break on TV, or myself at dinner, at least whenever my wife's not watching, or even though nobody admits it, during bathroom breaks. And with that in mind, I want to give you a look into how we at Google are thinking about the future of travel. The changes in consumer behavior, especially in the light of the switch to mobile, is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about how we have to evolve our own products for this kind of world of short moments and people on their smartphone. So let's start the presentation by looking at some actual user consumer behavior. We did a study in the US with a independent third-party company, Loose Research, and they recruited a panel of volunteers who volunteered to share during the course of the 2-month study all of their internet behavior across all of their devices with the researchers at Loose. For one sample user is depicted here. He had almost 40,000 digital moments in those 2 months. Websites visited, online videos watched, apps used, or Google searches done. And what's remarkable is that 87% of those moments were actually happening on a mobile device, mostly on mobile phones. If we zoom into that in a bit more detail, we see and group some of these moments by theme. We see a series of moments over a short number of days leading up to the purchase of an HD TV. And we also see that the user did some research for pizza online, resulting in, I assume, the online ordering of some pizza in November and in December. More interesting for this audience is actually the travel research that the sample user did. Over the full course of the 2 months, the user had over 400 moments where the user tried to research a trip to Disneyland. And the remarkable thing is that the researchers who did that study actually didn't detect any booking happening in that time. So the conclusion from that study is that the travel research, the travel planning that the user did for a Disneyland trip continued over more than those 2 months that the study lasted. And this is actually pretty typical user behavior that we observe at Google. Last year in October, Google announced that we now see more searches worldwide on all of Google done on mobile devices than on desktop devices. And if we zoom in and only look at searches done in the travel domain, travel-specific queries, that's still growing rapidly. We've seen over 50% of mobile travel queries grow in the last year, from January 2015 to January this year. At the same time as the traffic continues to rapidly shift to mobile, what's happening is that individual sessions are becoming shorter and shorter. That's why I'm talking about moments. Yeah? It's these short moments the users can make a decision, and actually, as the other data that we have also shows, is actually users can convert in these short moments. We've seen the number of mobile conversions in travel almost double in the last year. So our conclusion is that travel planning has rapidly shifted to mobile devices. However, it's spread across it's more fractured, it's spread across these shorter and shorter moments. Users are willing to convert if we get them to convert, if the process is frictionless enough so that they convert in the shorter and shorter time that they're spending. And there's one important conclusion from that data as well, and we've said that many times at Google before, but it's always worth repeating. With this shift to mobile and these shorter moments, just showing the user 10 blue links no longer is sufficient for a good user experience. The expectations of the user are higher, and the mobile experience requires us to provide the user, as if we can, with answers directly, present the data that the user is asking for in a format that's easily understandable on mobile devices, and then send the user to the right partner to convert at the partner. Now, with that in mind, I want to do two things. I want to give you a quick update of our existing travel products, and then I want to announce and show you a new travel product that we've just launched this week. So Google Flights is our most well-known, probably, travel product at Google. It's a product that we're very proud of. We get a lot of positive feedback from the press, from our partners, and most importantly, from our users. It continues to grow rapidly. We've seen the number of users using Google Flights almost double for the third year in a row, which is fantastic. It's the most important feedback you can get for a product. We've integrated additional partners, and last year we launched a new experience on mobile that is needlessly and more seamlessly integrated into Google Search. We've also launched, and that's interesting, especially for countries like here in Germany, we've integrated trains into flight search. That's relevant for countries like Germany, where a train is often a viable alternative to a flight. But we want to save the user the effort to have a separate query just for trains, and therefore integrate train results directly into flights wherever that makes sense. Furthermore, we've continued to improve the tips feature. That's the most beloved feature that Google Flights has. What we're doing for tips is, as the user is searching for a certain flight, let's say from Berlin to Frankfurt, we automatically, without the user having to do anything, search for surrounding airports, surrounding days, is it cheaper if you fly a day later, and search for higher class tickets, like is an upgrade to business class particularly cheap, and then we surface, if we find interesting information, we proactively surface that information to the user, saving the user the work to do additional searches, which is particularly interesting and important on these mobile devices that users are increasingly using. Also, we have managed to triple the amount of clicks, outgoing clicks, that we are sending to our partners, OTAs and airlines, out of Google Flight Search, who then use those clicks to convert the user and sell them tickets. Our other established product is hotel ads and hotel search. Similarly here, last year we've integrated more partners into the product, and we've launched a new experience both on desktop as well as on mobile. That's beautiful, it's seamlessly integrated into search, and it makes very good use of maps information, which we found to be highly relevant for users when they pick a hotel. We are working closely with our partners here, and we've almost quadrupled the number of clicks, outgoing clicks, that we're sending to our partners. Again, OTAs and hotel suppliers here to convert users. We've also listened to our partners, and the most requested user feature by many of you, our partners, has been a different form of pricing. Traditionally, we've been using CPC, cost per click pricing, in hotel ads, the same way we do that for all ad formats at Google. The hotel industry is more accustomed to commission-based pricing. That is why we last year launched commission-based pricing as an alternative to CPC pricing for partners who want to use hotel search and hotel ads. So these are the updates of the existing products. I want to now introduce a new product that we've just recently launched. before I get to the new product, I just want to kind of talk about two more things. Sorry for that. The success of our hotel product is closely tied to the success of our partners using it. And we're very happy with kind of the partner feedback that we're getting from all of you. This is a quote from one of our partners in the UK, Premier Inn, from their director of e-commerce. And they're quite happy with the product because half of the users that we're sending to them using hotel ads are actually new users for Premier Inn. Also, you've heard us talk more about Book on Google in the last year. So I'm going to kind of take some time and explain this. And I know that many of you are silently or not so silently wondering if Google is not becoming slowly an OTA. And that's probably the result for why not everybody was voting one on the TED question. So as the person who's responsible for Google's travel product strategy, I can authoritatively answer to you, we are not becoming an OTA. That's not planned, neither now nor in the future. We're working very closely with our partners, suppliers as well as OTAs, to build features. And one of these features is Book on Google. So you've seen in a world of moments, transactions can happen on mobile devices, but the transaction has to be frictionless. And as fast and quickly as possible. And on mobile devices, it's particularly cumbersome to enter my address or to enter my credit card information on other websites. So that's why we've built Book on Google in collaboration with our partners, both on flights and hotels, both OTAs as well as suppliers. They can use this. It's a completely optional feature, and the idea is to make the booking process simpler. So what we're doing here is that we are, instead of leading to a partner website, we're leading the user to a Google-hosted site that is partner-branded, like you can see in the screenshot. Because it's a Google-hosted site, we can access the address and credit card information that's associated with the Google profile, and forward that via backend API calls directly to the partner, in this case, Lufthansa. With the Lufthansa integration that we did, we're using the Peakwork supplied APIs. Because this is more smoothly, because we can fill out the address and credit card information for most of our users directly, this is a smoother process for the user. For the partner is still the merchant of record. Lufthansa, in this example, still getting the email address and the credit card information and so on of the user. They are the ones who are sending the confirmation email to the user, just the same way as if the user would have converted on their own website. And they handle all follow-up requests, including customer support and everything else. So they have full ownership of the customer relationship. With Book on Google, we have very good experience, and we've seen, on average, across partners, a doubling of the conversion rate. Now, Lufthansa has an exciting announcement. We launched this with Lufthansa in the US in November last year, and Lufthansa has an exciting announcement to make tomorrow. And I don't want to steal their thunder, so I invite you to pay attention to the Lufthansa announcement that they're making tomorrow. So that's it. Now I want to show you a new product that we have just launched on Monday this week. I want to welcome to the stage Maciek Nowakovski, a Google product manager. And he'll help me with the mobile demo. So we're switching to his mobile phone. And as I said, I moved with my wife from Switzerland to California a bit more than a year ago. And my wife keeps bringing up that she misses culture. And with that, she means Europe. And also that she misses authentic Italian food. And with that, she means pizza, I think. Anyhow, so let's plan a trip for me and my wife to Italy. I'll start on Google, searching for Italy destinations to get an overview what Italy has to offer. And as we're doing that, we see the new product that we launched. It's called Destinations on Google. It's tightly integrated into Google Search. Let's give it a second. Did you all catch his passcode? I've done the demo a number of times this morning when we had a press event, and I'm actually really anxious to kind of book a trip to Venice now. This was more intended as a demo originally, but I think I might end up booking a real trip to Venice here, and then expense it on Google. Oh, fantastic. Our internet connection isn't there. You think, yeah, let's give Maciek a demo. So I can give you some background research that we did that kind of led us to building this product. We actually noticed that in the early stages when users are early in their travel planning phase, yeah, they're often actually very flexible, both in terms of the destination that they want to go to. We found that about 70% of the users, when they start travel planning, actually have not decided on a destination yet. So there's this destination flexibility. Also, we found that users are relatively flexible on the exact dates that they're traveling. And it's not the typical question that users always ask, should I leave on a Friday? Or is it cheaper if I would leave already on a Thursday and take an extra day off? Or should I leave on a Saturday like most people do? Yeah, often they're also flexible, and I could actually take vacation almost every week in May or June. And they have some flexibility there, and they're quite often willing to shift the exact travel dates if that saves them money or allows them to get into a better hotel. Okay, so that was enough. This is basically the search on Google for Italy destinations, and you see in the search results is this beautiful new product called Destinations on Google that's showing me different destinations on Google. And as a user, I can opt in to go into the full page experience, as Maciek just did, and go through the different Italy destinations that are there. Let's stop for a second and have a look at Pisa, for example, a couple of keywords describing the different destinations. And then you see that we also recommend the user a certain week to travel there. That's basically Google, who has already looked at the next 6 months of traveling to each and every of these destinations. It's taking Berlin as a starting point because the mobile phone is in Berlin, so it's assuming I want to travel from Berlin. And it has looked up hotel prices and flight prices for the full next 6 months, and is actually recommending me the best week to go, meaning the cheapest week combined across available flights and available hotels. And you see that that's different weeks or different dates depending on different Italian combinations, destinations. So let's do one thing, like let's go into the filter setting, because I'm a nature fan and I like to spend my vacation time in nature. So I can filter the destinations by certain interests, like we've just done with nature. See, it has drastically changed. Pisa is no longer there. Now we have Lake Como and so on. Now, unfortunately, I said I want to travel with my wife, and my wife is not quite as much a nature fan as I am. She's an architect, and I've learned in the last 10 years that the recipe for a successful vacation with my wife is going somewhere where there's beautiful architecture. So let's filter for architecture. Luckily, in Italy, that's easily possible. Now the filter setting is set to architecture, and we see the typical suspects: Venice, Milan, Naples, and so on, places with beautiful architecture. Now, I said I could travel any week in May, so I would actually want to understand a bit better if we go to the date setting, flexible date setting, what's actually the best week in May to travel to these different destinations. So we could specify exact dates if there's only like really 1 week where I could travel, but if I'm flexible, I can basically just say all of May would be fine. And you see that Google, again in real time, in the fraction of a second, has calculated all the May combinations of flights and hotels for all those destinations and is giving me the best week in May for each of those destinations. Let's say Venice is interesting. Let's tap into Venice. And now I can have a closer look at Venice as a travel destination. I have basically 2 tabs at the top that you see, the Explore tab and the Plan a Trip tab. Let's stick with the Explore tab. We have a beautiful image. We have editorial content that our editors from Sagat and Frommers have written about Venice. And then we have an interesting feature that allows me to quickly inform myself about Venice. We have suggested itineraries. These are editorially composed itineraries based on what travelers typically do when they're traveling to Venice. Let's click into one, and we see how a typical day in Venice could be spent. So very quickly, I can snack and get a feeling for, is this Venice vacation something that would make my wife happy and as a result make me happy as well? If I don't want to use any of the prepared itineraries, I can, of course, go in, and we've listed the top sites for you, and you can go through them. You can kind of click on details. Let's have a look at the Doge Palace, for example, and look at the details there. So inform myself, and I could star these places now. I can interact with them. If it's a museum, I could go to their website and purchase tickets. If it's or call them up I would see their opening times and so on. Let's continue onwards. I see some price information, more about that later. I see a map, and here this is quite interesting because we often see that as people informing themselves about travel, they're also searching a lot for weather information. So we proactively pulled that information and put it in here, saving the user additional searches about weather information. We can go to the full page experience, and now we see the weather information in Venice. So we see the temperatures, high and low, the probability that it's going to rain, and the popularity for tourists of the destination. So I can quickly scan this, and I'll see, okay, it's more likely to rain in April than in any other month. And Venice is largely popular for tourists in the time period from April to October. This could help me in my decision-making process. Let's go back. Continue onwards. We've pulled the most popular videos from all across the web and put them in here. We've seen CTRs on video content for travel video content go up by about 4.5% in the last year. So increasingly, people use online videos to inform themselves and use that in their travel planning. So we pulled the most popular videos together here. And at the end of the page, we've linked closely related other destinations that the user might also be interested. So this is inviting me to snack and explore other parts of Italy and look at Rome, Florence, and so on. Now let's assume for the purpose of this demo, and in order to keep the demo short, that I would be now convinced, okay, Venice is the place I want to take my wife. How would that trip look like, and is it actually in my budget? That's what the Plan a Trip functionality is for. You see that it has a price graph available here and flights and hotels further down. Let's go first into setting the right trip parameters there. So I said I want to travel with my wife, so it would be 2 of us. 7 nights looks good to me. Hotel class, I'm traveling with my wife, so let's see, is a 4-star hotel affordable? That looks okay. Let's try 5-star for a second. No, let's stick with 4-star. So what you see in that graph below the settings is we've already now in real time computed how the prices are changing over the next couple of months for all the date combinations, for all 7-day trips into the far future. And I can now quickly scroll through the price graph and see those variabilities in prices. And the prices are the best flight and a recommended hotel for the destination. So I can actually see that the price differences are not that huge. I cannot save a drastic amount of money, but by cleverly picking the date that we're leaving, I could still save like 100 euros or so. Let's scroll to some date in May. This looks good. Let's scroll to a different date a few days later. And just by going through that, you'll see that in real time, we're updating the flight information that we're using here. And now the engineer in me just has to say this. What we had to do technically here is actually really amazing work, even for a Google engineer. We are doing about multiple trillions of computations every single day to compute through all the possible flight combinations, just flights alone, look up availability of flights and the flight prices to keep this up to date and fast. That's an insane computation even for Google standard. Anyhow, so I can actually click on a few flights on Google if I'm not satisfied with the 3 flights that we're suggesting to the user here. We actually found that 85% of our users tend to pick the flights that we recommend to them as the best flights. But of course, you can get the full power of Google Flight Search here with just a tap and use the full functionality in Flight Search to select your flight. Now, I don't think I can expense a flight from Berlin to Venice on Google, so let's not book a flight. But what I could do from here is click on an individual flight that I like and be sent directly to a partner OTA or airline and then book the flight there. If you scroll further down, it's the same thing with hotels. I see certain recommended hotels, average prices, and I can also go into Google Hotel Search to use the full power of Hotel Search to pick the hotel. Thanks, Maciek, for the demo. Let's switch back to the slides. So this is our new destinations on Google product. We've launched this week. It's available in 5 languages. Let's see if I remember all of them. In German, in English, in Italian, Spanish, and French. And more languages are to come. As I said, this is live, this is launched. I want to talk about how you can actually access the product. The connectivity of my stick is, here we go. So to trigger the product, you'd go to Google search in one of the 5 languages I just listed. And you do a query like, for example, a continent, a country, or a state, combined with the keyword destinations, or in German, Reiseziele, or vacations, or interests. Like you could do Spain beaches, or Switzerland hiking, or Switzerland vacation. That triggers the experience I just mentioned. One thing that we also want to do with the product next is to take the product and integrate it into the knowledge panels for broader searches that Google has. For example, if you're searching for Venice today, it's not entirely clear if the user searching for Venice is actually trying to plan a trip to Venice. That would be highly interesting for you as advertisers. Or if the user is, let's say, writing a school report about Venice and needs to look up, I don't know, the square kilometers of Venice or something like that. That makes Venice as a broad keyword an unattractive target today for our advertisers and our partners in travel. But with the integration of that, of the new product into the knowledge panel for Venice, we can actually disambiguate the query. Yeah, and for example, this could look like this. This is an early screenshot of how we could imagine this would look like in the future. And then if the user clicks on travel to Venice or the travel guide click, yeah, then the query would be disambiguated, and you could target those queries with your ads. So this is one thing that we want to take this product with. The other one I think is quite obvious to many people in the room. The Planet Trip tab that we showed you is kind of predestined to be the place where we could showcase the amazing content that our partners are creating. Like, for example, package information, Pauschalreisen in German, yeah, could be put there and could be highlighted with the partner name, the differentiating feature that the partner is offering, like a free trip from the airport or something like that, could all be put there and be integrated with the rest of the experience. That's something that we actually want to talk to many of you, ideally all of you. Please reach out to your Google contact if you're interested in joining us in that. That's some of the next steps that we want to take the product to. So that leads me to my conclusion. I've shown you some user research that increasingly travel planning is happening on mobile devices, but in shorter and shorter moments. I've given you updates on our existing products like Google Flights and Hotels, which are doing very well. I've talked a bit about Book on Google and how it is important to actually make the conversion process as frictionless as possible. And I've shown you our new product that I'm very proud of, Destinations on Google, and all the amazing things that we want to do with it next. Thank you.
Oliver, thank you very much for your presentation. Fortunately, we have left, let's say, 5 minutes for some questions.
Okay.
I have 3 or 4 questions, Oliver.
Yeah, sure.
One is, okay, we can have a seat.
I want to get some water.
Yeah, that's good. If we dig a little bit deeper into that destination product that you just showed us, it's quite interesting what I read some days ago. There is an unpublished study that shows that Google knows over 62% of the movements of all internet users, even if they do not use Google. And this number is even higher on mobile phones, I think. This means Google knows much more than Facebook, much more than Amazon, and of course much more about the customer than a tour operator or travel agent. Yeah, is this linked with your destination product, or what does it mean in terms of usage of big data for Google's plans in the future?
Yeah. First of all, it's an unpublished study, so I haven't read it, so I can't really comment on the study. The numbers sounds a bit high, if you ask me. So I can't comment on the study, but in general, big data is, of course, an important topic for Google as well as for everybody else. We're using the aggregate and anonymized data that we have about website usage, for example. For example, in products like the ones that you've just seen, use them, for example, to rank the different locations. Yeah, that's why Rome showed up before Venice. That's based on aggregate and anonymized information. Or when ranking top sites inside the product.
Okay, so we can expect much more relevant products, much better designed for the individual customer's needs than on any other platform.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, I have to raise one question, Oliver, that everybody of us has in his mind, the question of Google as OTA. I recently read a very interesting book from a Spiegel journalist called Thomas Schulz. The book is called What Google Really Wants, was Google wirklich will, auf Deutsch. On page 206, this is said about the way Google works. Clever minds, creativity, and not afraid to take risks. Somebody that's smart, creative, and not afraid to take risks might come up with the following idea. Let's assume there is a customer, let's say an advertising customer like an OTA, and he has an intermediate revenue of, let's say, 50 billion. If we have a commission rate of 10%, he earns 5 billion. And if we have cost for advertising and so on, let's say 20%, it's 1 billion. So if you skip him out, then you would lose as Google 1 billion, but you would win 5 billion. So net plus 4 billion. Is this person a clever mind, or is he a fool?
The person might be a clever mind, I give that, but he's probably not a Google engineer. It's not our plan to become OTAs. We are in the advertisement business, and that has worked very well for us in the last 15 years, and we try to kind of stay in that business. Generally, what we're doing in our business strategy for Google is we're focusing on where we have our traditional strengths, and that's a strong focus on the user and clever engineers, and a lot of machine resources and machine learning that we can kind of employ. That's how we build amazing products like the one I just showed you, using our engineering talent and the machine resources that we have available. So we're playing to our strengths. If we would become an OTA, we would be playing to a lot of our weaknesses. It's much more important to have like better customer support and all of these stuff. That's just not traditionally a good business strategy for us. Okay. We're focused on the advertisement part. We see it as our job to take the many, many users that are going to Google every day and trusting Google and putting them in contact with exactly the right partner. And that's a multitude of direct suppliers as well as OTAs. And we try to find the right partner for the user and put them in contact. That has worked very well for us in the past. It's working well for us in the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, short questions regarding the apps. Apps are a great thing for users. One could very well imagine a default travel app on an Android phone. Is that a good thing for a user?
First of all, I would say there's nothing, we of course debating if you should build an app to, as you can imagine, regularly. There's nothing specific I can announce on actually us building an app. But I can say in general that first, if we would build a travel app, we would build this for both platforms, Android and iOS. That's also the reason why I'm always carrying two phones. We have users on both platforms, and both platforms are important for us. Second, you said default travel app on Android. If we would build a travel app, we would not make it a pre-installed app on every Android phone.
Okay, thank you. So we are running a little bit out of time, so this is my last question, Oliver, referring to Google's moonshots. Let's have a look into the more distant future. The Alphabet X department, they focus on so-called moonshots, like, for example, Google Loon, Skybox imaging, Calico robots, self-propelled cars, and so on. Would you see this as relevant for tourism in the future?
Alphabet X, or Google X as it was known before we did that change, has a number of really amazing projects, like Loon that you mentioned, bringing internet access to remote and distant parts of the world, could in fact have relevant for the tourism, positive impact for the tourism in those regions, I could imagine. However, I also want to say, like, not just a question of Google X or Alphabet X to kind of drive these longer term things. I think there's a ton of innovation that's going on here directly in the travel industry, driven by our team and by the many partners that we have. I think there's a long way that we have to go. Travel planning is still too complicated. We're trying to make it simpler. There are many more things that we can and we should all be doing to make it simpler. I believe that if we can make travel planning and traveling easier, more pleasant, more intense the experiences, that this is actually really good for all humanity, experiencing other cultures more intensively, maybe more frequently. Yeah, travel planning takes 7 hours on average. If we can bring this down, then maybe people take more trips, especially shorter trips, that they might not do today. So that's, I think, the innovations we will see in the next years.
Okay, thank you very much. We are run a little bit out of time.
Thank you.
Oliver Heckmann.